The theme of adventure throughout film history has been one of the dominant elements used to inspire and create a sense of wonderment in film. This sense of wonderment aids in helping people to escape their mundane worlds and experience something greater. However, in our modern day, the film industry, although not always negative, is saturated with political and social commentary, which can be used to create real change in our society. However, oftentimes we seem to lose sight of what originally made film great, which is the spectacle and wonderment that is created through its viewing. Films such as V for Vendetta, Black Panther, and even Superman hold underlying political themes and that, although are important, tend to often mar and put less emphasis on the fun aspect of films and more on the political or social implications that a film might have. Two examples of films that hold true to the pure and fun-loving elements are Steven Spielberg's Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Stephen Chow's Journey to the West. In order to analyze the catharsis of the spectacle and the celebration of human goodness triumphing over evil, this comparative study will focus on companionship, spectacle, the misuse of power, the battle between good and evil, and the use of diverse locations. Raiders of the Lost Ark is an epic tale in which an archaeologist named Indiana Jones tries to beat a band of Nazis to find the biblical Lost Ark, which is central to their plans for world domination, battling a phobia of snakes and Nazis at every corner. Journey to the West follows the story of a young monk named Tang Tsung, who is on a journey to vanquish the demons from the east on a search for nirvana to the west. He battles demons at every step and even finds love along the way, and in the end learns that love triumphs over all. Although both films focus on the catharsis of the spectacle, it is important to notice the stylistic differences between the two. One major stylistic difference between the two films is that Stephen Chow uses much more humor than Steven Spielberg does. Chow uses much more facial expression and close-up shots of characters' faces in order to create this humor. Chow also uses much more magical and supernatural elements in his film, while Steven Spielberg uses more grounded but still fantastical elements. Both are, however, used to the same effect, and that they're both able to create fantastic spectacle within their respective worlds. Although still fantastical, Indiana Jones is still much more grounded in reality than Journey to the West is. Although both films lack any specific political commentary, both films do broadly have the same theme of good versus evil, and in both films they are presented in the dichotomy of light and dark. In both films, those who are the antagonists and those who represent evil are usually dressed in darker clothing, while those who are dressed in lighter clothing represent good and are our protagonists. Chow and Spielberg use this to the effect in that they are not only trying to create a difference in how characters who are good and evil act, but also how they dress and appear. This allows for the audience to be subversively reminded of the distinguishment between good and evil. In both films, evil is not represented as an individual character, but rather a faceless group, devoid of individuality. In Journey to the West, it is the demon hunters, and in Raiders of the Lost Ark, it is the Nazis. Spielberg and Chow do this in order to portray evil not as the action of individuals, but rather a force or idea that takes hold of them, causing for evil not to have a face, but simply a name. This furthers the aspect of the dichotomy of both films, where good will ultimately defeat evil. The misuse of power is another element that is occupied in both films. In Journey to the West, the Monkey King is imbued with power from the Buddha, but uses it to terrorize the country and therefore is imprisoned. In Raiders of the Lost Ark, the Nazis want to use the Lost Ark, which is in the Bible is a gift from God, as an unlimited energy source, and subsequently they are all killed. However, in both films the misuse of power is corrected, for the Monkey King is bid by the Buddha to serve Tang Tsung on his journey to Nirvana, and in Raiders of the Lost Ark, where Indy is able to hand over the Ark to the American government for further study. Both films also have spectacles on a massive scale. For example, Raiders of the Lost Ark has the infamous boulder scene, and Journey to the West shows the Buddha literally palming the world to defeat the Monkey King. The spectacle in both films is used to great effect, and that they are both able to create a sense of wonder in the audience. They both create a non-realistic representation that might not be relatable at the physical level, but that we can all relate to emotionally. Companionship in both films is also important, that they both provide a change in the main protagonist. In Journey to the West, it shows the relationship between Duan and Tang Tsung. Originally, Tang Tsung does not have any interest in Duan, constantly belittling her and blowing off her attempts at friendship. It is only at her death, when she sacrifices herself for him, that Tang Tsung is able to finally connect with her and truly love her. Similarly, in Raiders of the Lost Ark, we see Indy and Miriam. Indy originally sees her as a weight dragging him down, but as their journey continues, he learns to value her and treat her as an equal. In both of these films, it is because of the companionship that they experience that causes for the characters that we meet at the beginning of the film to be completely different at the end. Both films also use an array of diverse locations. This adds to the spectacle of both films greatly. Seeing one person seemingly travel across the globe makes the world seem smaller. It helps the audience to escape their ordinary life and experience the world the ways that the filmmaker wants them to see it. Indiana Jones stretches all the way from the Amazon to the Sahara, and Journey to the West spans all of Asia. Using so many diverse locations also helps to express the journey of the character themselves, with Indy moving from the office to the outdoors, symbolizing his progression from a desk worker to a hands-on archaeologist, and Tang Tsung moving westward to find Nirvana, symbolizing his enlightenment. Journey to the West resolves the enlightenment of Tang Tsung. The demons that worked so hard to defeat him were bid to become his followers, destined to help him reach Nirvana. He finally completes the journey that he started at the beginning of the film. He goes from a naive monk to an enlightened disciple of Buddha. Chow uses this to relate to his audience, and that how we are now is like Tang Tsung at the beginning of the film, not at our full potential, but that we can become so much more through if we can vanquish the proverbial evil in our own lives. Raiders of the Lost Ark ends similarly. Indy is able to defeat the Nazis and obtain the Ark. Indy's journey also shows him change drastically. He is able to become a different person compared to how he started the film. He learns the value of charity and sees the evil side of humanity. He essentially loses his innocence. Indy is also furthered through his relationship with Miriam, which we discussed before. Instead of using political commentary to remind them of the problems of their normal life, Stephen Chow and Steven Spielberg choose to focus on good old-fashioned fun. They use grand spectacles in order to help the audience escape their reality to enjoy every second they have watching the film. They portray universal truths that we can all relate to, which they express through the dichotomy of good and evil. Rather than relating to the audience on a grounded reality, they rather try to create relatable emotions, tension, excitement, and joy. All things that we wish were fixtures of our regular lives, brought to life in a film.